senzinange yong la samri shugu ye Switzerland Liechtenste Pyramid ma tikzu kingo ne thari de Swiss ki kyasa Geneva nyamde gezo ki duindu ani thari domi toptang ki chokche tengshim chokte tengshim chu shigubati thari nimune gochugu yore di gochube ki nimutela an thari Switzerland Liechtenste Pyramid ma ki an de ngogo ki namgyuchi kudishu yore de minai thari lega che tuzu ine mina mangbuchi pesha an changmala tuju che shubata chapchikdu nyamde gezo langanzu ki thari shudu pya de shugu shichi ye dordu shubaina di nanglola nyebe chala ani tragola ani tembe ki ku ani fit kuchu gogu cheba di torbata di mache ani mani khorlo lungda dige di torbe kangla saja thagar rangla ani phakjang gyapchini ani gyami ki phebe ki phimi ki ani chöda rikshunla ani dogru tangi yobe ki netan che din deshin ki ani saja dinzu khula ani mina mangbu chi zön la chu nang yore dige ki chen da chine lukyu chine an ganzu dos nyeshu pyu yore an phönang ge netan de ta bet za thakpu ta doru ching yoba ta an phö de ta nyawe ki sachik cha yoba ta phö de ani lungba yongzo de ani bet the concentration camp shurwa dinde chayobe ki duschen ngishu pyu ngishu du shu shi yore de deshin ki ngatu charshoba mangbuchile gyada shibjus chelanga zu desho pyu bata ani pönange nedan dige de charshoba le ge se duschen pyu shuye yi ani chik nganzu chi gega lo shungye phemi Switzerland Liechtenste chigo member khaba yone ani ngune ta pönange neta ta thakbutela ta nganzu dokta chikti gyngone ani ngogo tachikdo ani supu 토네 ngogo 이내래 ngakto 토네 이내래 이도 토네 이내래 두치는 남기 슉 침부가 주게 아니 동생 냠제기디 만왕바이나 다 변할라 내다 다 잡고디 문에 니마고야 치다 산에 사바디 취매베치 차야기 년같이 날레데 샤슈에이
다 칼로르다 간조 로망보 로다 딱바 저 유나이티드 네이션 콘도 초 안에 딱바 저 간조게 베베강에 가르 유메디 간조 계시 야고시하고 촌도도 간조 계시 야고시하고 딱바 럽드고 다 로다 딱바 당 간조 디나 저 계시 주보시에다는 간조 개핑고 말아 간조 로망보 간조 강에 시우지 총버를 예미토라 간조 주보 말아 점블링 가서 갈라 드라미 톱당 강에 시우지 여래 한잔 유크레인다 콘도 강에 망보던다 안에 유나이티드 네이션 칼처를 람나 촌도 된저 표조 땅 투저도 토라 마땅 버체 아니 촌도 된저라 계시 주보 매버체 탑시 땅에 가르도 먼저 랑가 세부지 때 아니 랑가데 세부 땐제 랑가데 줘야 디 켄레치긴 바 아니 디 타체 오케오로 먼저 직주보 먼저 다 등금인도 로마보도 럽뇽 아니 로마보 먼저 두르 겹도 가 제도 와라 다 두르 겹투고면도 아니 디치나 직주보 만당자 कुछ 랑가 땐저
오 뜻래 아 필리핀도 상말에 아타실레 쉐이 녜미 밍마이 안드레 갑십 셰구바기 냠데 게조 뒤에게 딩당레 레데 간조 페바 나라 스위스 페리미망기 캠페 스트래티지샤 소상 가라데가 우슈 좋은데 저차르데 아니 냠데 게조레 아당 가조 오네 타네 간조 페바 디다 예 장유 미리 디게 디페 미레베 마르베 스팅에 티와이 당 오네 타네 냠데 게조라 are we the human being or the not? If we are human being, you are the responsible to be stand for Tibet and all the minorities under China. So I request, please support Tibet, and we need a basic freedom inside Tibet. And 160 plus Tibetans have self-immolated under the dictatorship of China. We urge Chinese government, please, we need a basic freedom. We need His Holiness back to Tibet. We need a peace inside Tibet. That's what we need. And most important, we need a dialogue, peaceful dialogue. That's what we need. Please, I urge Chinese government to come on the table and talk with us. His Holiness and our administration is ready to talk with anyone, anywhere. Please, we need a human right. We are Tibetan, and all the minorities under China are in dictatorship, killing, torturing. So United Nations must act now, please. Pegalo. 통화들라 아니 땡게 상마 구션 통화네 아니
그 개가 좀 예로 까마치 딩가라 냥제이 도치나 도시 제르미 바지나나 아니 스위스탄 리텐스텐 페리미마 조조 감슈글라 촌에 아니 제고 운조기 송신 나주인 in the next program we have a welcome speech by the president of Tibetan community in Switzerland Liechtenstein.
인글라 투체나 겨우군데 주시 전부 쳐라 구장문도 선배토 다리대 드럼이 톱단기 아니 속체 속된 십시오 니마 당부대 안도 스위스 리텐스타인 프리미마틱 중원에 레귀지 쿠티 슈바텔라 냠슈낭에기 지수 남바 공어 튼주기 구잡 간데 솜라 스위스 리텐스타인 프리미마기 속슌다 귤레 남바 안데 미망 강망 직패나샤 아니 창말라 참지 슈베토네 아니 다리댕에 망부직 벽에는 슈목을 베토 단다 표현한 게 내땅 망부직 먼저 다리 동강내 차로낭 베기 토네 아니 냠지 계속라 슈두직 지니 표고열에 디냠도란 다리 불미만 소소차르치니 아니 낙도내게 먼저 슈고에 망부직 두 아니 디낭내 믹스기 안 단다 차고 낭로라 아니 덤베기 구 torbatigi sajati gangla damani 콜로다 요세기 아니 자친부기 sajati gangla 아니 팍배기 창직 아니 개미기 강준이 개보여 띵아런 쪽에 공부 가르치고도 슈베이나 안 디나라 야쳐서 가르치는 개고요 말에 라룩쳐서 가르치는 개고 말에 팍팍쳐서 가르치는 인지미지 개고고래 디레 다 표가 이나 알아주기 도나낭에 지기 킹기래 겨울무치기 아니 퉁배기 로티 팍로치로 퉁여 안디 땅 안주기 셈 낭라 아니 나서 세기 다 lakcha tamasune za cheshu chi ke cheshu chi gyami ki tabare same chi nge dinde chi ngwe singi ye anti ngazu ki ngune kanje thone ne ma khyo chi ki nezu chi re ante duks chene tanda nge ki nyamre gezo la pyrme mang ki thone ani nye shu phya ti ma jalo chi shu yi tes rimbu tu konge me chi Miss Michelle Bachelet, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Geneva. Your Excellency, we, the Tibetan community of Switzerland and Liechtenstein, are writing this appeal letter to express our serious concern over the rapidly deteriorating situation in Tibet and express our profound disappointment on your continued muted response to China's relentless violations of Tibetan people's fundamental rights. As the UN Human Rights Council opened its 49th regular session, Tibetans from across Switzerland and Liechtenstein are gathered in front of the UN Human Rights Council Sessions building yet again to draw your attention and appeal to you to break the silence on Tibet. Your Excellency, China is becoming less tolerant and more repressive. The situation in Tibet is becoming far more oppressive. Human rights defenders, former political prisoners, intellectuals, and thinkers are categorized as a special group. They are subjected to undergo more sophisticated surveillance and control by the Chinese authorities. For instance, Tibetan former political prisoners are mandated to use and stay intact with a mobile phone with inbuilt monitoring chip. The device automatically records all communications of the family members and further keeps the track record of movements of the user. Former political prisoners released after 2014 are made to wear 24-hour GPS monitoring ankle bracelets that monitor and record every conversation and movement. In view of China's ever-growing intolerance towards the flow of information from and to Tibet, every tiny piece of information coming out of Tibet is precious. Tibetans in Tibet, even at the cost of their lives, are reaching out to the UN officers for human rights for the meaningful actions to defend rights and voices of Tibetans suppressed by China. Demolition and conversion of Tibetan Buddhist religious site into animal farming project site. Beginning from November 2021, the Chinese authorities in Kham Trago demolished a Tibetan Buddhist religious site, and the religious site has now been transformed into a state-run animal farming project. The Chinese authorities in Trago began demolishing two Buddhist statues, 99-foot-tall Buddha statue and 30-foot-tall Maitreya statue, dismantled 45 giant Buddhist prayer wheels, and burned down all Tibetan prayer flags in less than 2 months, from November to December 2021. Soon after completing the destruction of the religious site and object of worship, in early January 2022, the Chinese authorities started demolishing monks' quarters at Gandhin Namgyalling Monastery at Trago. Shortly after this, the Chinese authorities began poultry and pig farming project in place of a Buddhist religious site. Local monks and resident Tibetans are forced to cooperate and work in the farming project. Bringing animal farming in place of Tibetan Buddhist religious sites disregards Tibetan cultural and religious conduct and grossly humiliates the cultural and religious sentiments of Tibetans in Tibet. Arbitrary arrest and incommunicado detention of the Trago Monastery head and monks. The Chinese authorities arrested the abbot of Trago Monastery, Pagala, and his assistant Nimala, another monk by the same name Nimala, and Tashidorjila, without giving any official explanation. Furthermore, the other local Trago residents, including Tibetan sculptor Ramu Yangdebla and Norpa Siring Samdubla, were arbitrarily taken away from their home. They were reportedly suspected for sharing information to the outside about the demolition of Buddhist statues, and Chinese authorities cracked down in the area. The current whereabouts and well-being of detainees are unknown. Suppression of Tibetan social and cultural life. The assimilation and cessation policy of China undermines and systematically controls Tibetans from taking part in any form of Tibetan Buddhist cultural and social life. For Tibetans, the right to express and take part in cultural life on a daily basis is a crucial part of the daily routines. These include, but are not limited to, saying prayers and offering on Buddhist shrines, circumambulation of monasteries and listening to Buddhist teachings. But these acts of Tibetan religious and cultural expressions are systematically controlled by the Chinese authorities. Often, the Chinese authorities banned and further intensified deployment of security personnel in Tibetan areas, particularly during Tibetan Buddhist cultural festivals and religious events. For instance, Sakadawa, celebration of Losar Tibetan New Year, Sangsul or offering of burning juniper, and Ganding Amcho observed on the 25th day of the 10th month of the Tibetan Buddhist lunar calendar. A leaked internal document titled Code of Conduct for Communist Party Members in the Tibet Autonomous Region, which has been circulated internally since April 2021, explicitly forbidden religious conduct include wearing rosary beads and religious imaginary, participation in religious and spiritual retreats, and forwarding or liking religious audio, video, or religious information or scriptures. The Code of Conduct enforces party members to undertake active roles in advising family members and relatives to downplay their religious activities, including not to set up religious imaginary and altars at home and seek party approval prior to inviting religious personnel to conduct Tibetan Buddhist rituals for occasions like weddings and funerals. Closure of remaining Tibetan language school. Tibetan children taken from homes and sent to Chinese boarding schools. China's efforts to assimilate culture and identity through changes in education, including phasing out or de-emphasize the teaching of the Tibetan language, is a cause of serious concern. Under the One Culture, One Language campaign tag, China has declared more aggressive efforts are to be made in bringing 85% people in regions under its control to speak Mandarin by 2025 and make Mandarin virtually universal by 2035. According to a study report of the education systems and schools in Tibet by the Tibetan rights group Tibet Action Institute, Chinese government policies are forcing 3 out of every 4 Tibetan students into a vast network of colonial boarding schools. Tibetan children are separated from their parents as young as 4 from their parents, revealed in the report. The report also documented how schools in Tibet function as sites for remolding Tibetan children removed from their families and communities. Students must study primarily in Chinese, barred from practicing their religion and subjected to political indoctrination. The remaining Tibetan medium language schools are increasingly facing forcible closure and subject to comply with restrictive directives. For instance, in early August 2021, Gyalten Gyatsa Charity School in Tehor Rongbatsa Township in Kharse was issued a closure warning notice by the local government. If the school does not switch into teaching the state-compiled textbooks and start using Chinese language as a medium of instruction, including conducting the school annual examination in Mandarin. Crackdown on rights defenders and torture in Tibet. Dorje Tashla, Tibetan businessman and philanthropist, was sentenced to life imprisonment in 2010 under alleged charge of loan fraud. He is currently imprisoned in Lhasa Thapchi prison and in failing health condition. Dorje Tashla has revealed how he was abused and tortured by the Chinese authorities during pre-trial detention. The horrifying testimony obtained by his relatives documented different kinds of torture against him. The Tibetan language rights defender Tashwanchula, who was released after 5 years in prison earlier last year, continued to be under close monitoring and intimidation by the Chinese authorities. He was summoned by the Chinese authorities earlier this year and interrogated him, who asked him to advocate for the use of the Tibetan language. In his first public posting on Weibo, he expressed concerns over how local Chinese officials are intimidating and silencing the dissent voices rather than addressing the concern. Your Excellency, the above illustration reflects an iota of the current worrisome situation in Tibet. We call upon China to respect the fundamental rights of Tibetan people, including Tibetan rights to access to education in their mother tongue, and stop meddling with Tibetan Buddhist religious practices. Also call upon China to address the underlying grievances of Tibetan people rather than resorting to intimidation and silencing dissent. Yours sincerely, Kamachuki, President of Tibetan Community in Switzerland Liechtenste, Vice President. Thank you very much.
Switzerland Liechtenste and Timis Tozo Kamchugla la Tuchana Shui. Thank you, Kamchugla. Then we have next our slogan shouting. Tangaransu DJ la ngaransu zerimti nimaki ngas kebinai Kamachungi ringala.
Stop genocide! Stop genocide! Tibet is burning! Tibet is burning! Tibet is burning! We want justice! We want justice! In Tibet! We want justice! In Tibet! We want freedom! We want freedom! China lies! Tibet dies! China lies! Tibet dies! Tibet belongs to Tibetans! Tibet belongs to Tibetans! Tibet belongs to Tibetans! Long live Dalai Lama! Long live Dalai Lama! Long live Dalai Lama! Shame on China! Shame on China! Shame on China! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Peggy Dakpo! Peggy Dakpo! Peggy Dakpo! Stop genocide! In Tibet! Stop genocide! In Tibet! Stop genocide! In Tibet! Tibet is burning! China is lying! Tibet is burning! China is lying! Tibet is burning! China is lying! China lies! Tibet dies! China lies! Tibet dies! China lies! Tibet dies! Wake up! Wake up! United Nations! Wake up! Wake up! United Nations! Wake up! Wake up! China lies! Tibet dies! China lies! Tibet dies! China lies! Tibet dies! We want justice! In Tibet! We want justice! In Tibet! We want justice! In Tibet! We want freedom! We want freedom! We want freedom! Tibet belongs to Tibetans! Tibet belongs to Tibetans! Tibet belongs to Tibetans! Peggy Dakpo! Peggy Dakpo! Peggy Dakpo! Peggy Dakpo! Peggy Dakpo! Long live Dalai Lama! Long live Dalai Lama! Long live Dalai Lama! Shame on China! Shame on China! Shame on China! Shame on China! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Hey Gallo! Hey Gallo! Hey Gallo! Peggy Dakpo! Peggy Dakpo! Peggy Dakpo! genocide.
In Tibet.
China lies.
Tibet dies.
China lies.
Tibet dies.
China lies.
Tibet dies.
We want justice.
In Tibet.
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 Tibet belongs to
Tibetans.
Tibet belongs to
Tibetans.
Tibet belongs to
Tibetans.
United Nations.
Wake up, wake up.
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 Stop genocide.
In Tibet.
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 Tibet is burning.
China is lying.
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 China lies.
People die.
China lies.
People die.
Stop genocide.
In Tibet.
Stop genocide.
In Tibet.
Tibet is burning.
China is lying.
Tibet is burning.
China is lying.
Tibet is burning.
China is lying.
China lies.
People die.
China lies.
People die.
China lies.
People die.
We want justice.
In Tibet.
We want justice.
In Tibet.
We want justice.
In Tibet.
We want.
Freedom.
We want.
Freedom.
We want.
Freedom.
Tibet belongs to.
Tibetans.
Tibet belongs to.
Tibetans.
Tibet belongs to.
Tibetans.
Shame on China.
Shame, shame.
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 United Nations.
Wake up, wake up.
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 Stop genocide.
In Tibet.
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 Tibet is burning.
China is lying.
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 China lies.
People die.
China lies.
People die.
China lies.
People die.
China lies.
People die.
We want justice.
In Tibet.
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 Tibet belongs to.
Tibetans.
Tibet belongs to.
Tibetans.
Tibet belongs to.
Tibetans.
Shame on China.
Shame, shame.
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 Peggy Takpo.
Emiyin.
Peggy Takpo.
Emiyin.
Peggy Takpo.
Emiyin.
Peggy Takpo.
Emiyin.
Stop genocide.
In Tibet.
Stop genocide.
In Tibet.
Stop genocide.
In Tibet.
Long live.
Dalai Lama.
Long live.
Dalai Lama.
Long live.
Dalai Lama.
Long live.
Dalai Lama.
Long live.
Pegalo!
Pegalo.
Pegalo!
Pegalo.
Pegalo! Pegalo! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Save Tibet! Save Tibet!
Save Tibet.
Save Tibet!
Save Tibet.
UN!
We want.
Wake up! Wake up! UNO!
Wake up. Wake up.
UN!
Wake up. Wake up.
United Nations! United Nations!
Wake up. Wake up.
United Nations!
Wake up. Wake up.
United Nations!
Wake up. Wake up.
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet.
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 Peki Dakpo!
Pemi
Peki Dakpo!
Pemi
Peki Dakpo!
Pemi
Peki Dakpo!
Pemi
zerim DJ la ani subo tundu sobagi kushap Jack Anuchon Susha Nai. Agoda Nadi Zerim DJ la Zerim Shibatilla and a European Shuni Tunzo against Sozo, but it's also any Dala Casa Lagi Susha Nai. And the next we have a speech by the Vice President, Mr. Vice President of Tibetan Youth Association Europe, Mr. Dala Casa.
Europe Perishino Tunzo Sabshive Switzerland Liechtenstein ki Perimima ki Zozo Gamachugila Tunjoka Kuzo Ganda Zumala Ane Henganamato Tama Tilengazo Gembe Petubde Shirab Gabuchons on the Tujishe Shuyin. Nada Tiringe Sungsha di Zudingat Injitola Shuchubache. On behalf of the Tibetan Youth Association in Europe, I would like to thank TCSL President Gamachugila and the Tibetan Bureau, Geneva, Kanatsumala, and everyone participating to this protest today, and welcome you here. Thank you very much. Once again, we all gathered together in front of the United Nations in Geneva today to raise awareness to the issue of Tibet, not only for all of us here in front of the United Nations, but also in the United Nations and to everyone around the world. At the same time, I would like to thank the TCSL for organizing today's protest during the ongoing Human Rights Council session of the United Nations. A protest that is urgently needed because these days human rights have to be saved in every aspect and around the globe. Firstly, I would like to say a few words regarding the situation in Ukraine. The current situation in Ukraine is showing that the human rights situation, not only in China, but around the world, is cracking up. I was shocked when I heard about what was happening there, and I want to say to all the people from and in Ukraine that we Tibetans are standing with you and we will support you. Hopefully the situation will get better soon and there won't be a war which will not only affect Russia and Ukraine but the whole world. Tibetans stand for freedom and human rights, and that should be important to everyone and everywhere around the globe. The repression in Tibet hasn't got better in all these years. In fact, it even got worse. Last year, the Tibetan Advocacy Coalition uncovered a campaign by the CCP to not only restrict Tibetan language and Tibetan Buddhism, but ultimately erase the Tibetan identity. The objective of the campaign was to break lineage, roots, connections, and origins. The CCP has been destroying the Tibetan culture for many decades now, and they will be trying to do it in the future as well. But this action needs to be stopped now. This year, the Winter Olympic Games happened in Beijing. We, the Tibetan Youth Association in Europe, in collaboration with other human rights organizations, have started the campaign No Beijing 2022. The aim was to boycott the Winter Olympics in China. We called up on the IOC, who awarded the prestigious games to China, and to the Swiss Federal Council, but they all didn't even react to this call-up. Even when other nations such as the United States of America, Canada, Australia, and many more called up for a boycott due to the disastrous human rights violations made by the CCP, Switzerland didn't join the call to boycott the Games. But our campaign was still a huge success, even though the Games did happen in Beijing. The CCP and the IOC lost a huge amount of their reputation, and there were many news and stories told about the human rights violations around the world. We are completely convinced that the No Beijing 2022 campaign was only an opener for the great things that will be coming in the new future for the Tibetan freedom movement. We will not stop and raise our voices for all the Tibetans and the people around the world who don't have the opportunity to speak for themselves for a better world. So I'm asking the United Nations now, what more needs to happen to the Human Rights Council to gather enough courage to show some backbone and bring Tibet to the agenda? We're here today to call on the Human Rights Council to finally take responsibility and use their platform to raise the issue of Tibet. But we will need much more than just fine words. We demand concrete actions and sanctions to ensure that China is being held accountable. If the UN member states fail to do so, they are giving China a free pass on all the crimes they have committed against Tibetans in Tibet. So to the United Nations, don't waste another Human Rights Council session. Hold China accountable now. Dear brothers and sisters, don't lose your hope and stay strong. I know we're in a very difficult situation and it may look hopeless for some of you, but I will assure you that if you don't stop believing and continue to participate at these protests and don't lose your hope, we will achieve our goal and bring back the freedom to Tibet. We, the Tibetan Youth Association in Europe, will continue to fight for a free Tibet, and we hope that you will support us on that way, because we are one nation and we need to stay strong. Thank you and Pögyalo. Lego na so tempe to the gabushdacho ane ngara to ne tsik kan ka shu chobeche tere nganzo de United Nations do the live de nganzo kembe gyapche ta tinsa nganzo tuzu pe kapo yobde nga ha ku kyanzo samba de tuzu de kapo yore rawaj lab soji yukire ina nga kyanzo tsangma dune tanda leje tsik kuch rawa mala roche semshu mancha roche nganzo mentun shu gya yin nganzo tsama pemi re nganzo tsama pemi yin sigo re kamba ina utsa ina amdo ina keba yomare ana nganzo tsama rup gya je tiri machuna sani machuna maomba nganzo miyu zuo de pe gyalo de nganzo tukura samgudo andi tola kuch mentun nganzo kembe da nganzo ge tujela perona ana shu gyarona ana shida tujina shuyin pe gyalo
Thank you, Mr. Dalakasala, Vice President of Tibetan Youth Association Europe. And now we have